Start a small business. No need to work 40, 50 hours a week, slaving your life away. Obtain financial freedom, be your own boss, and create your own destiny. Moguls are the new superstars. The path to country club membership and a leased Mercedes-Benz is paved in gold as you take your business trips to Orlando or Vegas. Validation from your in-laws is just an LLC and Facebook business page away. At least, that's what they tell you anyways. Through social media, websites, and targeted ads, you're sold an image. Small business owners seem to walk on water. You'd think you're the last person on earth working a regular job with a regular boss. But there's trouble in paradise, and its name is in over your head. People start looking to start their own business, don't know what they don't know. But that's why we started our Small Business Confidential podcast, to share what we've learned from years of experience. There's not a lot of people in on this, so remember, dear podcast listeners, you heard it here first, off the record, on the QT, and very hush-hush.
Hi, everybody. On a fall Sunday afternoon with my buddy Mike Ferrante. Mike, how you doing this afternoon on a Sunday?
Doing good. Just finished a nice long walk with the dogs and ready to go.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about a real boring, cliche-laden subject called planning. You know, your business plan for those who are starting off with their own business or maybe have hit a wall. That's why the title of this podcast is Fail to Plan, Plan to Fail. The old adage. Mike, What's your just your overall thoughts?
Well, I think that was loosely based on a Ben Franklin quote, but the last 10 years or so, I finally started putting together written business plans every year, and it's been life-changing.
How so? Elaborate.
Well, you actually have some metrics to measure your successes and failures by. I think that in the past I kind of, I think I had a good year, I made this much money or, whatever on each project, you try to measure, but if you don't actually have something to measure it against, you don't really know how you're doing.
Right. That's the absolute key, is to have a metric that you're doing weekly to judge how you're doing. I have a couple of analogies. One is if you say you're leaving on a boat, sailboat, leaving New York and you're going to London, and if you're off a degree on your journey, you're going to wake up in Spain. Another good analogy is weight loss. It's real basic. Calories in, calories out, workouts, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're losing weight, you got to be at a negative 500 every day. That's the rule of thumb, to lose a pound or two a week. And that's where you got to measure yourself. And that's why you have to write down what you are eating and how much you're working out. And don't lie to yourself. I think that's the biggest mistake people make, is they fudge, they hedge, they kick the can down the road. They justify not taking the time to plan. And that is that they pay lip service to the concept of planning. Planning is something you do every day. You're writing down your plan, which is connected to your strategic goal. To add to that, Mike?
Yeah. So, I think the analogy you made is good as far as fitness and diet. There's a couple of great apps that, I don't own stock in these apps, so it's just recommendations here. The one that I love for diet and fitness is called MyFitnessPal. I'm not sure if you use that one, Mike.
Yeah,
it's phenomenal. I mean, it really does it's an easy job. It gives you an easy time tracking what you eat, because I think once you start tracking what you eat, you'll realize, wow, I didn't realize I was taking in so much of this or not enough of that. And that was really an eye-opener. And then there's a multitude of fitness apps, but when I really started tracking my workouts, it was an eye-opener too, because I realized, like where I was short, like where I was not working out the muscles enough. And it also gave me more of a structure to my workouts, where I wasn't just kind of winging it. Like I used to say, well, today I guess I'll do some of this and some of that, but you're more likely to actually do it if you have a plan and say, oh, today I have these 4 exercises. So you're going to go
Yeah.
out there and do those 4 exercises. And the one I use is called JFit, JEFIT. Again, they're a dime a dozen for those kinds of fitness apps.
Yeah. And once you start getting that feedback, that metric feedback, it spurs you on. It gives you a sense of that I've got something that's working here. You've got a plan, a daily plan. You're writing down everything you eat, and you're writing down your workout. Are you walking for 45 minutes? Get an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or one of those wearables, and you can actually measure how much did I walk, 45 minutes to an hour, listen to a podcast like our podcast or the Cleveland Real Estate Investor. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the Cleveland Browns Anonymous because you'll get depressed. But
Yeah.
the other one, there's a ton of great podcasts out there. You go for a walk every day, you get your 1 hour of workouts in, you watch what you eat, you don't grab, a bag of potato chips in the morning or a sugary drink, which all of a sudden has, 300 calories. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's not going to take you that long to realize where you're going off the road, because it's initially what you're going to find in that first week. If you religiously write down what you're eating, you're halfway there, because losing the calorie bombs is the key. And that's the same thing goes with your business. Where are you losing money? Where are you wasting time? A good example of that is a long time ago in my contracting business. I realized that I had a lot of guys that I had hired to work, and they came from failing businesses. And I noticed they all had one thing in common. We'd be at a job site, and they were always going to the store. They were always going. I'm talking 3 trips, 4 trips to the store to get something. I got to go to the shop. I got to go to I got to go to the paint store. I got to go to Home Depot. I got to go. No, you don't. Finally, I put a stop to that. If you go to, I'm not paying you if you go to the store. Just take it off your timesheet. And what it did was it forced them to make a plan for the day before. What exactly are you going to need that you pick up in the morning before you go out to the job site? I shut that down immediately. And it was amazing how all of a sudden jobs started getting done on time.
Mm-hmm.
Or if we had let's say we're painting a house. Okay. What I did about 25, 30 years ago, I put together a work order, and I said, you have 40 hours to do the front, 40 hours to do the drive side, 40 hours to the back, 20 hours on the garage, and 40 hours on the neighbor's side. I told them, you do not go to another side unless the front's done. Or I said, you could only do 2 sides. You can't move off on that. And it focused them to get exactly what they had to get done that day. And all of a sudden, jobs started getting done on time. And what was even better, I got a better estimate. I got a way of getting that estimate feedback where I could quickly realize where I had misestimated the time. So on future estimates, I could say, 3rd floors always take longer. If you have a restaurant business, if you have a retail, if you have a consulting company, as you track each week, you're going to learn things about your business. How does the weather impact? How does the holidays impact? Are you slower or busier in the winter? Where do you make the most money? That kind of intel coming at you is going to make your plan not only better, but more realistic. Your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I love that. I always tell my teammates, the realtors that I train, that if you're waking up in the morning and you're saying, well, today I think I'll do this and a little bit of that, then it's already too late. You've already failed for your daily business plan. And of course we do an annual business plan, which will break down into months and then weeks and then days. But again, the day-to-day planning has to be done, I think, the day before. I think that's the best way to do it. You're kind of winding down for the day. maybe it's before dinner, after dinner, or whatever. But if it's kind of like the workout analogy. If you're saying, well, today I'm gonna do a little of this and a little of that, you're more likely to fail. And that's why I encourage our agents that, look, you've got to sit down and have a plan when you wake up, when you're going to make your phone calls, when you're going to have showings, what time you're going to work on your marketing, your social media, all that kind of stuff.
Right. I remember Bill Walsh, the Hall of Fame legendary coach of the San Francisco 49ers, when he took over the 49ers, and they were a hapless team. They were always losing. He came in, this is like 1980, 81. And one of the things he developed was when they went on the road, they would script the first 10 plays.
Yeah, I love that.
And they would practice that script. And that would get them into the zone. I've been telling my top people, foremen, key office people, that I want a 5 p.m. update. This is what I'm doing tomorrow. And I sometimes look at it, probably half the time I'll study that at the end of the day, but I'll definitely pick it up in the morning. But it forces them to spend time at the end of the day to send in that 5 p.m. update. This is what I'm doing tomorrow. And what I then took it up another notch is we have on Friday, we have what's called schedule board, where we have Zoom meetings. We use a Google spreadsheet online. It shows where all the people are working. What are we doing next week? Because you have the office team, you have the contracting team. Those two have to be in sync in terms of how we're marketing, how we're allocating our resources, how our people. So we set up on Friday, we set the week up. These are what we're doing. This is what, we're not doing. We're moving to another week, or maybe we'll move it to next month. And then that 5 p.m. update is connected to that week. So if we say, look, at this week, you're doing A, B, and C. That 5 p.m. update on a Monday is got to be saying either A, B, or C. There's no X, Y, Z showing up, coming out of left field. Well, I thought I would just kind of do this, or I just felt it would be good if I went out. That kind of touchy-feely thing, where I just feel like I want to just get out and take a look. Anybody that says that to me is going to get whacked, because there's no thinking to that. There's no strategic thinking to what they're doing. They just, and I'll get into that a little bit deeper. But again, it's that 5 p.m. update, making people plan.
Yeah, well, so to circle back, I love your analogy about setting off for London and ending up in Spain. The other thing that daily sort of reconnoiter does is it tells you if you're heading in the right direction. You don't want to find out that you arrived at the wrong destination when you get there. You want to make adjustments along the way. And that's the other huge thing about business plans, is you can tell when you're deviating from the plan, if you're going to exceed your goals, if you're going to miss your goals, and you can make adjustments before you arrive at the destination.
Right. And you know what? And don't underestimate how difficult this is, because people just throw these words around. Oh, here's my business plan. Well, okay. Is it working? What did your business plan has to have a marker to it. What did how much were you supposed to make last week in sales, or in profit? How many hours did you bill? It's got to be to that level of detail. And the dirty little secret, again, Small Business Confidential, the dirty little secret is people don't know how to do this. Because especially when you're coming from another, say you're working for a company, or say you're coming out of college, you don't realize how passive you have been living. You've been doing what the teacher tells you. Following what the teacher says, studying for a test, or what does the boss want? That's what you do. But when you're out on your own, having your own small business, there's nobody telling you what to do. The market will tell you if you're failing or not, or people are quitting. But if you don't have the ability to organize yourself, you're gonna drown. Thoughts?
It's exactly right. When you burn the boats and go out on your own, that's when you find out if you really know how to swim or not. So yeah, I mean, and Mike, your comment before about this isn't easy. I think a lot of us just kind of say, well, business plan, here's my plan, and they don't put a lot of thought into it. I think that it's really important if you're good at planning, to take it to all these different levels. It's not just, well, I make a plan every day. No, there has to be that monthly plan, annual plan, and then there's the big high level vision. And I think that's a lot of times where people miss the mark because they realize, gosh, 5 years have gone by, 10 years have gone by, and how much further ahead am I? What's the big vision for the business too? And when you're at a job like the example you gave, you're accomplishing someone else's vision. So it's a little different when you're the one coming up with the vision.
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back.
If you enjoy listening to our Small Business Confidential podcast, we're sure you'll enjoy our first podcast, The Cleveland Real Estate Investor. We give outside investors an inside look into the real estate market in Cleveland. Cleveland has been on the rise, and investors from all over see those cheap prices and salivate. Our job is to educate those investors and steer them in the right direction with several years of experience of how to do it right and many examples of how to do it wrong. Find the Cleveland Real Estate Investor podcast on any app you listen to your podcast today.
Exactly. I think let me tick off some of the pitfalls. We've already talked about number one, which is this is harder than it looks. Okay, that's number one. Number two is you have to know how to prioritize on your plan. You can't have 20 things on your to-do sheet for the week because that's just a wish list. That's not tied to reality. You're not going to get these 20 things done. I started realizing that earlier in the year when we would have Zoom meetings, it would be online, and I would talk to some of my senior foremen, and I'd say, okay, so what is this person doing next week? And he said, well, he's got these 4 jobs. And I said, all right, well, how many hours are those 4 jobs? Each one of them were 20 hours. I said, there's no way he's going to be able to do all 4. What are the 2 he's going to get done next week? And it forces them to really account for in detail how they are going to realize their plan. And that was eye-opening not only for him, but for me, because I started realizing that most people would pay lip service. They throw jobs down, and it just wasn't realistically what they're putting in for their plan for the week. Thoughts?
Well, as you were saying that, I was thinking the saying that I've heard: "Hope is not a plan." A plan, it's got to be a real plan. It can't be, well, I hope I can get this done. Hope is not a plan.
Right. And I don't care how hard you're working. I mean, you could be working. I had a senior, one of my senior controllers who since left a couple years ago. I remember talking to her near the end of her tenure, and she was talking about how, she works till 8 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, and her assistant works till 7 o'clock. Missing in that was, what exactly are you doing till 7 o'clock? It turned out they were doing other people's work that they weren't supposed to be doing. Somebody wasn't turning in their invoices, so they'd spend, they'd probably spend 20% of their week chasing down those invoices. So there was a lot of patting on the back about how hard they were working by the mere fact they were staying late, but nobody was actually looking at the quality of the work or the enabling of inefficiencies. And that is what happens when you have everybody in your organization who has a detailed scripted plan for the day. You start seeing who's not performing and where other people are carrying the ball for them. And that can be eye-opening.
Yeah, it's huge. Yep. Yeah, it gets back to tracking and measuring. So it's not just dollars and cents, but performance. That's a great point, Mike.
Yeah, and I mean, for you individuals who want to make money doing this, there better be a measuring stick there about how much money you're actually making, because you may go into this business thinking like, oh, well, I'm going to start a restaurant, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, and it really it's fantasy land because you've never done it. There is a little bit of hope there, and there is a little bit of you're cheerleading yourself that this is going to work. You have to be disciplined to measure whether that's working or not, because at the end of the day, you have to be making money. You have to be in a net plus, and that includes savings and that rainy day fund. So a lot of times, somebody will start a business and they'll get funding, and then they'll go out and lease expensive office space, instead of just working at some storefront to start. Something simple where you're keeping your expenses low. Do you really need that copier lease? And I'm speaking from my own experience. Or should you just buy something used? I mean, it's not just how much money you're making, it's also how much money you're saving on expenses. Do you really need 4 people in your company, or can you get by with 2?
Mm-hmm.
How about subcontracting this out to a company to handle this? So you're juggling 2 balls. You're generating the money, but you're also controlling the expenses. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's such a good point, Mike. And, when you're a business owner, as opposed to just working for someone, you have so many hats to wear. And I think filling the gaps on where you're weak is the important thing. And I know it's easy to say, well, I need 4 people. I've done the same thing, Mike, personal experience. I've had too many people. I've had not enough people. And it's really hard to figure out exactly which holes to fill. And it's the companies that are nimble that will survive the economic shifts like we're experiencing now. The big unwieldy companies with too much help or not enough help are the ones that are going to struggle when things shift like they are now.
Right. And having the ability to measure how much money you're making in these different jobs will allow you to recognize the profitable niches. I know for us, when we instituted our man-hour profit system, and this is over 30 years ago, when I started coding our computer software. We weren't using QuickBooks because that was more of an accounting off-the-shelf computer system. I wanted to know which type of jobs were making the most money with the least amount of stress. And you know what I quickly found out? I quickly found out that the glamour kitchens, the $50,000, $75,000 glamour kitchens didn't make any money. The margins were razor thin. The stress levels were super high. Instead, the simple miscellaneous repairs, gutter repairs, painting a garage for somebody who needs to get the house sold, doing the point of sale violations, doing the little repairs that they can't get somebody out to do. Those jobs made more money in 1 week than the so-called glamour jobs. But I wouldn't have been able to see that if I didn't have that system that would look at what the man-hour profit for that job was. And it quickly disabused myself of what the conventional wisdom was saying. Because a lot of the conventional wisdom is not tied to profitability. It's tied to social acceptance.
And ego.
Right. And we've talked about that in an earlier podcast about, your friend who is a junk hauler. I mean, the guy is sitting on the beach in Hawaii for a couple of weeks. He's making so much money. But, it's not socially accepted, and people aren't interested in seeing how much money you're making. But all he knows is he's got money in the bank.
Yeah. It reminds me of one of our first conversations about 10 years ago, Mike. We were just getting to know each other. And I remember I was sitting in your office and you said to me, you got to track and measure and figure out what jobs are profitable, where you make money. And you asked me, you said, well, where do you think my most profitable jobs are? And I thought just exactly what you said. I'm like, I don't know, when you get a big kitchen or a big bathroom. And you're like, no, it's exactly the opposite. cleaning gutters is one of my most profitable jobs. And it made me realize, that I don't know if you realize that day I went home and I started thinking about my business and realizing what's my cleaning gutters? Like where in my business is the cleaning gutters job? And of course, I'm in real estate, so it's a little different, but I took that analogy and applied it to my own business. And, it was really a helpful comment that you made that day. You probably didn't even realize it.
Yeah. Well, I'm so used to just yapping away. you know, I know my wife's kind of tired of hearing something. She's only heard it 100 times, but it just kind of, you're like marbles in your head. It just keeps, you just keep reminding of, look at my goal for the year is to make X number of dollars. Okay. Because I know I have to cover my personal nut and I have to cover the business nut, the copier lease, the truck leases, but within those groupings, what the revenue is and the profit and then controlling expenses, there is a lot of low fruit to collect. It is stunning when you look at it on a weekly basis. Suddenly you realize that you're spending 20 hours a week just in the warehouse. Somebody's pushing a broom. And then you say, well, maybe I just have the cleaning people do that once a week. And then I have that person out instead of being an overhead cost, they're going out making me money, at some job. You can't see that unless you have a metric plan at that level of detail. Now, I know there's some famous expressions, save the penny, make the dollar. Come on, you're up on your Ben Franklin.
Well, the one I like is that which you track and measure, you can improve. Something, I think it was maybe Jim Collins quote, but talking about, you can't fix it if you don't know it's broken, kind of thing.
Exactly. And I think so, our Small Business Confidential podcast is going to be short and sweet, which is setting a business plan together, and then building processes that measure it on a weekly basis and a monthly basis and a daily basis. All these different tracking is like taking that long journey. Instead of going on a sailboat, which I've never done, I've never crossed the Atlantic on a sailboat, but let's say we're in a car. We're driving from Cleveland, where we are, and we're driving to LA, okay, Route 66. Now, we know that we have markers along that trip. We're heading southwest, right? So we're going to go to Cleveland. We're going to Indiana. We're going to go to the Midwest. We're going to here. We're going to here. We're not going to Florida, right? So that simple plan of having a road trip is very similar to anything that you want to achieve. There has to be a road trip. You want to lose weight, you want to get in shape, you want to start building a financial cushion. Maybe you shouldn't use a credit card at 20% interest rates, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you should go to a debit card. Maybe you should have a budget of what you're going to spend this week, and then what you're going to make. Maybe you should put in some overtime or work a half a day on Saturday and go out and sell some extra work or make some extra work, and then take a portion of that and put that in your fund savings. Maybe you shouldn't be smoking a pack a day. That's only $3,000 a year right there. But when you have that level of awareness of how each move is connected to some sort of strategic goal, you're going to build that awareness, and you're going to find that success. Final thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, as you were going off on that little rant of yours, not quite a rant, but it made me realize.
They're always rants, Mike.
Yeah. The thread, we'll call it a thread. It made me realize, one of my big regrets in life is not starting to set aside retirement savings earlier. That's part of a plan. That's part of your business plan, is the savings. And, so my big advice for people who ask me, or, hey, what would you do differently? It's start saving earlier. I don't care if you're making 25 grand a year, set something aside. And I think,
you know what, and don't even call it a retirement fund. Don't, God forbid, you young people, please don't do a college savings plan. That is such bullshit. Speaking of confidential, because, now, I mean, you could save your nickels and dimes and wake up and find, college is 100,000. It's not
Yeah.
worth it. But that's another podcast.
Yeah, but there's
okay?
some great tools. The Roth IRA is still one of the best savings tools out there in that it's tax deferred. So, I don't care if you're putting $1,000 a year away in
exactly.
a Roth, do it.
Right, exactly. The act of saving has to be part of a bill to pay.
Yeah.
And so it's savings is not like, well, I hope I have something left over. Okay. God forbid you're saying that. Don't even say that. If you're not putting money away and you have your own business, you're working without a trampoline.
Yeah.
You're on a high wire act alone, just having your own business. Something could happen to you. Somebody could quit. Customer doesn't pay you. All of a sudden the recession / depression hits. There's a million things that can go wrong. So you have to have a cushion there. You have to have what I call FU money. So that if you're at a crossroads where, do I take this job from this dick customer, or do I just, what? No, we're not taking this job. We're going to hold to our principles. And then lo and behold, a day or two later, bingo, you get the job that fits, that's profitable, working for a great customer. But you have to have that cushion. You have to have that money saved. So make that as a bill to pay, and make it, that's got to be integral to your business plan.
Yeah.
So final thoughts again, Mike, repeat what you just said.
No, I just said I love it. That's great advice. Man, you get a little bit of everything on our podcast, don't you?
Yeah. Well, it's Sunday. We're getting ready for the week, and I got to do my clipboard.
Yeah,
So
I'm just looking at my plan for tomorrow, practicing
All
what
right.
we're preaching.
You just focus. Yeah, exactly. You just focus on, what you want to accomplish tomorrow and for the rest of the week. All right, Mike, we'll pick it up later
Awesome.
on our Cleveland real estate investor October heat check. All
All
right.
right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Small Business Confidential. To support, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also add our podcast to your favorite streaming services. Everything is appreciated, and we'll be back soon with another episode and upload schedule. The person voicing the intro's name is Travis Reilly. Thank you, Travis. And the music was done by our engineer, me, Amari.